Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar from rainy Northern California. I'm Justin Chong. I'm the VP of Global Sales and Marketing at Jupiter, joined by Mike Dunn, Senior Director of Enterprise Sales, and we're here to talk about PANA. This is the star of our show today. Want to do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll kind of dive into the presentation. First off, kind of brief agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about Jupiter, why we're diving into the display technology solutions, and then Mike's going to talk a little bit about use cases, some of the benefits of PANA. We'll get into the technical details. Hopefully, leave time at the end for a Q&A. We had a pretty robust one on our call this morning, so please jump in on the Q&A tool in your Zoom interface, and we can keep track of all the questions there and make sure we answer everybody's question that we have time to get to. Also, as you're looking at your interface on your desktop, feel free to kind of play with that video speed versus the content feed. Most of the information is going to be in the content. Everything in the content is represented on our website, so you'll be able to pull speed specs from the website, that sort of thing. So with that, I'm going to jump right into the presentation, and we'll go from there. So first off, why Jupiter Systems? We have been an innovator in kind of the visualization space since we invented video wall processors in 1981. We are, for the last 40 years, have brought, looked at the market, tried to understand what was needed, where we could bring some innovation to it. We were the first to market with video over IP when we introduced PixelNet in 2007. PANA and Zavis, our two display technologies, really are kind of that next evolution of that. So we'll talk a little bit about Jupiter, and then we can talk about why PANA actually makes sense in today's environment. We're a global company. We've got, over the last 40 years, something like 25,000 installs around the world in over 50 countries. We are built for the control room. So for those of you who are not, existing Jupiter customers buying our video wall processors, Jupiter is mission critical. Everything we do is built to be 24/7 reliability. Our support, everything from our development to our support, is built around delivering that level of reliability to our customers, both in the channel and at the end user level. We design, manufacture, service, support everything in our core product line from our headquarters here in Silicon Valley, California. We are an independent US corporation. And more importantly, we are really designed around innovative, unique, and mission critical applications. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our portfolio, and then we'll dive into kind of the star of the show. On our display solutions, we have PANA, which we'll talk about today. Zavis, which is our mini LED solution. It is a chip on board, kind of active, really revolutionary in terms of us taking active matrix technology and applying it to the video wall. Something that really nobody's done up to this point. We're going to have a webinar on that, probably March kind of time frame. On our display wall and our core product, and we'll maybe get a question or two at the end about how our core product plays with PANA and Zavis. Canvas is our unified operating environment that stretches across all of our product lines, allows you to control, collaborate in the control room, extend that control room environment to remote locations, using some of the technologies we built into that, and give your operators the ability to work from either at their desk, their couch, wherever they need to be at that time. Below that are the hardware solutions that drive Canvas. PixelNet is our distributed video solution, and Catalyst is our kind of core video wall processor, and there's a whole family of Catalyst products as well. We also have the J series, which is more of a point product, an entry-level, simplified, standalone video wall processor. Has a lot of advantages, and that's got an embedded OS, so it's not nearly, it's much more secure than a lot of other operating environments. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mike. Mike's going to talk a little bit about PANA and why it makes sense.
All right, work better together. That's the theme as we introduce the PANA product line. I want to thank everybody for being here. I see that we have some integration folks on the line, some end users, also some consultants. So I'll try to speak to each viewpoint and perspective. around the PANA solutions. So an improved user experience. Always happy to get some validation in the market from Gartner. But as you see here from this quote, display and vision technologies are central to creating immersive experiences. And really what that means, I think from our standpoint in developing the solution, this product line, is looking how organizations operate, how they become more competitive by hiring and retaining great talent. And that's all centered around the work environment, workflows, and having the best tools in the marketplace. And this is an emerging technology that we're bringing to the marketplace, introducing for the first time, not only the large format, but the 21:9 5K aspect ratio.
One point on the workplace. I saw an article from PricewaterhouseCoopers today where there's been a lot of hype in the market about the traditional office is dead. People are going to work from home for the rest of their lives when it comes to knowledge workers. 90% of the knowledge workers that PwC interviewed came back and said, we want to be back in the office. We believe that being able to be with our peers in a collaborative environment, using the tools and the spaces that are going into today and tomorrow's work environment is critical to their success. And that's been validated over and over again by different CEOs saying, as soon as we can get the vaccine and get people vaccinated and get people safe and socially distanced, and by the way, Mike and I are socially distanced. We're just about 8 feet apart, given that the PANA is about 8 feet wide. They're going to want to get people back in the office because you do lose something when everybody's working remote. Might not be the same environment that we saw 3-4 years ago, and it may very well be hybrid, but that hybrid is where the PANA is going to come into play.
And that touches on a great point in these bullet points when you talk about team and cross-region collaboration. The PANA line in multiple configurations, meaning sizes, can be in the real estate ecosystem, a corporate enterprise. It can be at home. It's about the 21:9 aspect ratio and what that does for the work experience and the end user in terms of all the collaboration tools and applications that are in the market. So the ultra-wide format offers an improved user experience in terms of team productivity. It's the optimal canvas for collaboration workflows. When you think about, we're going to show you in a little bit our software application and UI that will accompany the PANA line and how we work across this large display and wide display with a centerpiece of content in our 16:9 information. We have some meeting metrics, and then we have our applications such as whiteboarding and video conferencing. So you get a good feel for what that means. It also allows for improved workspace designs for evolving corporate real estate ecosystems. I don't think any of us have the answer as to what the end result will be. Obviously, there's a pretty monumental shift, but the office will still be a centerpiece, and the office outbound to remote workers. But we really believe that, and that's part of the vision of bringing this product to the market. So it's a unique and immersive viewing experience. Certainly, all of us that have the ultra wide displays on our desktops today, and we've been using those for a year or two, those have proven to us that the more information and applications that we can have in that elongated horizontal view is really an improved experience. It brings an innovative modern look, and that's really important when you're looking at designs for high value customer facing facilities, whether those are technology centers or customer experience centers. Anything that expresses a brand, it does have a wow factor associated with it as it relates to those designs. It offers better customer and employee engagement. So in the sales environment, in a customer experience center, this type of environment, we're going to talk about our touch model as well, but being able to collaborate on a large canvas like this obviously brings more engagement with your customer base. It also aligns to emerging technologies, hardware and software that have native 5K 21:9 formats. So we see more and more products on the market today that drive 5K at 21.9. There's a number of examples. Justin mentioned in our last webinar, you know, filmmaking and cinema is produced in 21.9 5K. Netflix now is streaming at 21.9 5K, Amazon, etc. So I don't know if you want to add something to that.
A couple of things on that, and really about the 21.9 aspect ratio. We'll talk about the 5K in a couple of minutes, but the human field of view is wider than it is tall. And we've been putting these, you know, almost rectangular monitors in front of people and on the walls for decades now, without really taking into account how people actually see the world, how people actually organize the data that they're looking at. If you think about how you would lay out, you know, multiple pages of a document on your physical desktop, you don't stack them on top of each other vertically. You lay them side by side next to each other, because we process information better horizontally than we do vertically. And so that's really, we're taking all of those things into account. Movies have been doing it for 100 years. You know, cinema has been 21.9 forever, which is why you get the letterboxes on your home displays if you want to see the entirety of what the director intended you to see.
Exactly.
The last bit on the hardware stuff. So we've been testing this for a couple months now and have had it in production here with, you know, multiple devices driving the input. And what we're finding is pretty much every modern PC platform will drive 21.9 5K right out of the box. We've got a Mac Mini driving this one. We're hooked up a Surface Pro tablet to another one, and it drives it right out of the box. Most laptops will pick up the EDID and display it natively without doing any kind of weird permutations when you fire it up, which leads to a smoother, quicker integration and installation and commissioning experience for our channel partners and eventually for the end user.
Absolutely. Thanks, Justin. So we'll talk about some of the benefits. These are functional aspects of the display. But if you look at the elimination of bezels, so this is 8 feet wide. So this would compete essentially with a 110, maybe 120 inch video wall configuration. And this could take the place of that if you're looking at real estate in terms of just the canvas and the display. As we mentioned, it's a full screen cinematic view. It's actually 33% more pixels and canvas than a legacy 16:9. We'll show you a slide on that, get into some of that technical detail. It's fairly lightweight. This is in and about 155 pounds, 152 pounds, somewhere in that range. Can typically fit in a service elevator, so it can be maneuvered by 2 people. It can be installed by 2 people. We essentially have it on some industry standard mounts. There's 2 of them behind it, and mitigates the need for extra infrastructure and backing it that way. Lower cost ownership, as I mentioned. If you're considering a video wall of a similar size in the space, whatever that space may be, executive boardroom, executive briefing center, whatever the environment calls for, this can be a great alternative and would lower infrastructure, cost of ownership, and implementation. So those things are very important. It's also very, very competitive in terms of its price point, just compared to legacy large format LCD displays. Right now, the most prevalent large format is a 98 inch, and we're right in that range in terms of price points. And we also have brought a very strong enterprise warranty and support program into the fold with this. We understand industry best practices and industry standards in terms of warranty and support for the enterprise. So that's been a focal point as well.
And let me touch on that a little bit. You know, Jupiter's bringing decades of experience with, you know, mission critical, life or death, 24/7 control room environments, and supporting those environments. I mean, we still have product that we built, you know, in the early 2000s that's in production in the field today on the video wall processor side. I get those support calls every once in a while, people looking for spare parts that haven't existed for over a decade. But they're still out there, they're still in production. We're still helping our customers keep them stood up and operating. We're taking that same expertise, those same tools, the same tool set that we're using for those, and applying it to the PANA and the Zavis line. And then the other thing Mike talked about, you know, industry leading and best practices. He and I were both on the integration side not too long ago, and we're on the receiving end of some of those best practices and not so best practices. So I think I'm being fair when I say we feel your pain, and we're building this offering and our platform around making sure that we're the best company to do business with, not just on features and benefits and price point, but on standing behind you and partnering with you.
Absolutely. User experience. We want to offer the best user experience. So we'll talk about some of the capabilities. At this point, we're the world's largest LCD, single LCD at 8 feet wide, 105-inch diagonal. We can also configure it in portrait or landscape mode. So you think about some of those environments where portrait might come in into the design and the criteria for that. I think a customer experience centers, a myriad of different venues that might have that. Sports, hospitality, retail, etc. We talked about when we started looking at this product and with the product developers and bringing this all together here at Jupiter, having this in a portrait mode where it could actually be an individual. So think of a concierge or somebody, but a life-size human being on the display. And that's a pretty cool feature set. I'm talking about that with some consultants on some designs. So very compelling. As we mentioned, it's full screen native 5K. So we can fill the entire screen as you see here. We're driving it with a 5K image. And for the roadmap, which we'll get into detail, we will have an interactive touch capability. We'll also have a native user interface branded. It's Simple Share by Jupiter. Talk about that in a little bit, but it is a collaboration platform. And then the optional OPS as well. And then we have some detail. We're going to go on the full spec sheet, but some detail on the IO set for the display itself.
The one thing I want to mention that on the IO set that really, to my mind, is a feature is that USB-C hub that we built into this. We looked at what else was in the market, kind of where things were going, things about Windows collaboration devices. And USB-C is the future, just like kind of we believe PANA is the future as far as interconnect. So it's going to again give you an easier install, simpler cabling, a more robust pathway without having multiple cables in and out to run all of your data through it. And because it is the complete hub, you can run anything on it.
So we talked about a little bit around the applications, but we are focused on the enterprise. So this is an enterprise play for this solution and the family of the PANA displays, customer experience centers, technology centers, certainly operation centers. When you think about, that's the world Jupiter lives in. You think about the principal video wall, the massive display, and then the breakout displays where people can go analyze maybe a critical event or some alarm set or data points, data visualization, those types of things. Standardized collaboration spaces. We're going to offer 3 sizes in the PANA family. So that would allow for enterprises to be able to standardize on 21.9 and reap the benefits and the value of what we've been talking about in terms of that configuration. Multi-purpose spaces, because it's lightweight, we have one here. It's in a travel case, but it can be put on a stand. I've seen training centers and multi-purpose locations or rooms and spaces where displays are moved in and out. Certainly that could suffice for this on a stand and being able to do training and a whole myriad of events based on that. Executive offices, boardrooms, we see a lot of video wall installs in those spaces. So again, lower cost of ownership, lower cost of implementation, lower infrastructure requirements.
And that unique wow factor.
Absolutely.
In those spaces where, let's face it, maybe there's a bit of one-upmanship going on. This is the next one-upmanship.
Yep. And then retail and hospitality, we know that's going to come back as vaccines roll out, as well as sports venue, inside suites, inside the general area. But sports venues have so much digital technology, digital display technology, interactivity, and client engagement aspects to it. So we feel like it'd be a great fit in those type of environments as well. And then we're going to I'm going to kick it back to Justin. We're going to talk a little bit about the technical aspects of the product, and then we'll look forward to your questions at the end.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because a lot of this is really kind of one-on-one interaction, diving into some, deep details. But from a higher level, it's 96 inches across and it's 40 inches tall. So 8 feet by 3'6" on the size, 105 inches diagonally. One point that we talked about, you heard 33% more pixels. When we were looking at this, there's really kind of two aspects to it. There's the aspect ratio, and forgive me for using that word twice in the same sentence, but there's the aspect ratio. So the 21:9 versus 16:9. And then there's also the resolution. So we could have stretched a 4K image and a 4K processor and a 4K panel to 21:9, but you would have had an odd viewing experience. It would not look right compared to what you were seeing on your desktop or your laptop or even your phone in terms of, resolution and picture quality and the pixel density. So what we did was we said, well, let's make it 5K. And by making it 5K, we gave you basically the same picture quality you would see in a 16:9 4K. It's what people are used to. It is what, the expectations are set at, but it also gives you 33% more pixels to play with. And on the interactive side, one point is, because it is shorter than it is wide, it's easy on this 105 for pretty much anybody, whether you're vertically challenged or not, to be able to reach the bottom and the top of the device to do touch functionality. A lot of times on like a 98-inch touch model, it's tough, even for somebody who's 6'3", to get up to that top bar, let alone somebody who's not quite as tall, to hit that top 6-8 inches. This allows you to do so. It allows every pixel to be addressable when you're collaborating, and our mind makes for a much better user experience. Here's a graphical kind of representation of that in full screen. So this is 4K 16:9. When you stretch, and then, so we could have stretched it, but what we did is we added another almost 3 million pixels to give you this full screen experience and the same picture quality. And again, it's about a third bigger in terms of pixel space than your standard 16:9 4K. Again, comparatively to a 98, you can see the width being so much larger here, almost a foot wider, gives you a bigger impression of space. But because it is 8 inches shorter, every pixel is addressable, and it's much easier to see without people bouncing their head up and down. On the specifications, all of this is on the website. All of it's on the spec sheet. We can get that to you if you send us an email, and you'll see our email address at the end of the presentation, or pull it down from the website. It is a high quality commercial panel. It's rated for 24/7. It's got an MTBF somewhere in the 7-8 year range. The brightness and the contrast ratio all match with what you would expect from a high quality commercial grade panel. Speaking of commercial grade, we built the inputs and outputs to meet enterprise requirements. So, it's got DisplayPort, HDMI, like you would see in pretty much any high-end monitor. The USB-C, which I mentioned earlier, 3.5 millimeter for old school audio, also optical fiber in and out for audio. Ethernet, so you put it on your network, you can manage it, you can monitor it, it becomes another network resource, and RS-232 for control functionality, along with an API to plug into kind of your standard control functions, whether that's a Crestron, an Extron, AMX, Logitech, you name it, it'll run. Weights and dimensions. As Mike said, it's 155 pounds. We've been mounting and unmounting these for the last several months with two guys fairly easily. It is easy to maneuver. Because it is narrower, it actually is not quite as bulky, and we can move it in and out of doorways, hang it on the wall. We didn't specially reinforce any of the walls. It's got standard backing in it, so you don't need to hang it on a poured concrete wall in order to support it. That's about it on that one. So on the roadmap, we've got the D version here for the 105. 105i, which is our interactive version, is late Q1, early Q2. We're going to follow that up with the PANA 81, which is Q2 kind of time frame. Again, same 21:9 aspect ratio, same 5K canvas, but in a little bit smaller size to fit either a price point or a space limitation. Then, shortly thereafter, if not immediately at the same time, we have the PANA 34, which is a full-featured desktop touch collaboration device. It is 21:9 again, 5K again. So the same experience you would get on your desktop, either in your home office, talking about workers being hybrid now, where they're working from home a couple of days a week and they're coming into the office to do their collaboration and then they're leaving and going back for home. You have the same viewing experience and the same sort of usability experience. It has integrated mic, speaker, and camera, and it is touch natively, which means it's not a compute device per se, but when you plug it into your laptop, you can control your laptop via the touch functionality on the monitor itself. And it's a 34-inch diagonal panel. So we believe that, and we can couple that with Simple Share by Jupiter, which is our collaboration platform, and we'll talk about that in a second. It'll run on PANA 34, the 81, the 105. And again, you're only learning one workflow at that point. You're not asking people to run multiple workflows depending on where they're sitting and causing training headaches and support ticket headaches. So Simple Share. Simple Share is going to be launched with our 105i in later Q1. It is our doorway to the internet, doorway to your workflow from your touch monitor. We looked at it really with two objectives in mind. One is, how do we best utilize the pixels that we have so we don't take a 4K image and then stretch it across 5K? And how do we minimize the clicks and make it a better, delightful user experience? So we kind of split up the start of the interface to where we put kind of relevant, pertinent details of the schedule, how much time's left in the meeting, whether the room's available, what the room name is off to one side, and then the centerpiece, or the left-hand, right-hand piece, if you will, is roughly 4K. And that's where you're gonna present your content without having to modify it to a different aspect ratio. It's where you're going to get into a Zoom call or a Teams call or anything, and it's going to look natural and as expected. Touch interface, we minimize the number of clicks, and it is completely customizable to your workflow. So in this case, this would be a Zoom house. Could very well be a Microsoft or a Teams shop. Could be a Google shop. Could be a Blue Jeans house. Doesn't really matter. You can set your defaults and jump into the Zoom call and then into the Zoom interface from there. Or if there's a scheduled meeting, it's going to pick it up off of Exchange and have a single easy button to start your meeting. Also, you can whiteboard from here, launch a browser, share content wirelessly or cable, depending on what you need. Anything you want to add on this?
No, other than we'll be ready to demo this in and around March 1, maybe the last week of February. But as Justin mentioned, this was a very thoughtful development. We brought end users in from corporate enterprise that ran large AV groups and UC groups. We brought in, obviously, the software developers. So there's a lot of thought process put into this, looking at what's in the market today and married with our display as a total solution, what we could really do to improve the user experience. It's really about simplicity, one click, make it easy to use, make it intuitive.
So in summary,
am I taking summary?
yeah, you think so.
Okay, I'll take summary. So in summary, happy to introduce the 105 as a family, both the static display model and the interactive. Again, we touched on the value prop around the 21.95K. The optional Simple Share, we really look forward to getting that into the market, get some demos lined up and start introducing that to the audience here, the end users, the integrators. It's a large display canvas at a really great price point, reducing infrastructure, mitigating support and ownership costs. The ultra wide display brings a better and exceptional user experience, and we're bringing the strong warranty and Jupiter experience, 40-year company, known for reliability and engineering, great, reliable products. So I want to thank you for spending the time to go through that piece, and we'll take some questions through the chat line here and get that going.
One thing to finish up with is we do have this available for demo now. We've got them in road cases where we can send them out to you or your customer based on the business need and actually have you see it in person. It is a technology that to a certain extent needs to be seen to be believed. If you like that, if you have a question about that, you can email sales@jupiter.com. You can email your sales rep directly. You can email me, jerryshong@jupiter.com. Also, I'll get the social media plug in because my marketing folks are all over me about this. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. We'll have this webinar posted on YouTube along with our other monthly webinars, probably within a day or so. All right, with that, let's hand it over to the questions.
And one more thing on shipping, we're looking to ship this the first week of March, and certainly reach out for pricing and demos as well.